Hey, Christian here, host of the 21st Century Man podcast and founder of Second Life Coaching. And I wanted to shoot this. This is one of the first, actually the second video podcast episode, so it'll be live here on YouTube and as well as on the iTunes, wherever you listen. And I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about something that's kind of been rattling around in the back of my brain for the last little bit. A couple of weeks ago, I was listening to Love It or Leave It, a podcast, and I heard John Lovett mention something. They were talking about the Me Too movement. And he mentioned something that the conversation around masculinity and what it means to be, what it means in the age of Me Too is a conversation that needs to happen. It's something that's going to have to happen. And I thought perhaps we'd start kicking it off right now, kick it off today, with a little discussion about what masculinity in the age of Me Too should look like, or what it could look like, and definitely what it shouldn't look like. Now, one of the biggest complaints I hear from a lot of guys is that this Me Too movement is just a way for women to punish men and get back to them. I'm adjusting my headphones here. Get back at them, and then soon it'll be illegal for men to talk to women, to flirt with them. Workplaces are going to be a lot scarier, and all this sort of kind of garbage that's going along about a lot of, quite honestly, fragile masculinity in the age of Me Too. And there's really only one thing that you can say to that, is that if you're terrified that your interactions with women in this new age of bravery and equality and justice, I guess you could say, is that you might risk being called a sexual harasser, or worse, then perhaps it's not on the women you're interacting with. You need to look deeply into the mirror and perhaps understand that you're coming across as a bit of a creeper. And you may need to change some things about yourself and how you're interacting with women. Now, it is a warm day out here today. What does masculinity look like in the age of Me Too? That's a really, really good question. A lot of the old tropes and a lot of the old stereotypes are going to have to go away. They got to be tossed aside. The men in power are the ones to be believed. They're the ones that they can, kind of do what they want. And, he's a powerful guy, and that's just kind of the way he is. And that sort of, bullshit attitude is just kind of got to go by the wayside. Because you see, and I'm going to see if I can kick a little bit here where it's not quite so windy, is that this idea that men in power, or boys will be boys, the boys will be boys attitude, and quite honestly that goes along with a lot of really shitty behavior by men, is just kind of the way it is and the way it's always going to be, is nonsense. It's enabling, it's allowing guys to get away with shitty behavior simply because they're guys. And it's not what being a man is. Now, what does it look like? I don't know. We could start with empathetic. We could start with respectful. We could start with I don't know, deferring to the women in our lives and in our workplaces and in our families and such when they come to us with stories of how they've been treated, or on issues, quite honestly, issues that are pertinent to women, period. The idea of mansplaining, which I got into a bit of a Twitter beef just a few days ago with some conservative evangelical type who was offended that he was being called out for mansplaining, and he was saying, this PC culture is going to ruin the country and it's going to ruin society. And it comes down to kind of one thing, that he was kind of being a dick, to put it bluntly. He was really being kind of a jerk to everybody who was challenging him on some of the things that he had said. And I find, and a lot of people I know find, that when people complain about political correctness or what have you, let me see if I can find a little bit better to seat here. People complain about political correctness, they're usually complaining that they can't be an offensive douchebag without being called out on it. And that's kind of the way it is. You know, there's just a thing, there we go, let's get the light a little bit better, you know, about being nice, you know, not being offensive, about not being rude or condescending, or, you know, the constant, well, actually, mansplaining things to, saying when women speak out, to mansplain their behavior, their beliefs, or their experiences as, you know, kind of somehow less than, or dismissed as, you know, not as important as, or not as intelligent or well thought out or, you know, cogent as guys are. So this is a brave new world, and I, for one, honestly, am really happy for it. I think it's far beyond time that we start taking women seriously, and us guys, you know, we need to step up to the plate. We need to step up and support them and listen to them and encourage them and defend them and welcome them into, you know, it's going to sound really cheesy, so forgive me. Kind of welcome them into the old boys club, I guess you could say. You know, there's a lot of very smart, talented, powerful, creative, incredible women out there that have been shut out through, you know, the decades, the centuries, simply because they're women and they're dismissed and kind of tossed aside or devalued because of being a woman. And that's part of what's got to stop. You know, us guys, you know, we're not going to take the lead in talking about their, you know, the experiences and such. That's going to be for the women to do in the world. They're the ones that are going to be speaking up and talking about what they've been through, what their lives are like, and what they've been like, and how it's affected them, both personally and professionally. And it's our job to sit and listen and, you know, support them and believe them. But what we've got to do as men is we've got to start changing how we do things. We got to start calling out our brothers when they make, you know, sexist jokes, or they speak about women in a horrible way, or, you know, any sort of that sort of old-timey misogynistic behavior that we see our friends and our family do, or our coworkers do. We've got to be the ones that start to call it out. You know, this locker room talk or this boys will be boys crap, it's got to go. It's got to end. It's got to go. It's got to become, you know, extinct like the dinosaurs, because all it does is perpetuate a belief and perpetuate a society that views men as superior and women as inferior. And in particular, and when talking about women, is we've got to end the, you know, the kind of the I'm struggling for a word here, but the violent overtones of how we speak of them, particularly when it comes to sex. You know, I'd hit that, you know, and that sort of thing. That's gotta, you know, because that's, you know, it's not only a disrespectful thing. That violent overtone, you know, has repercussions, and we see it all the time. You know, especially in guys who are emotionally constipated, and when all their frustrations and anger build up inside of themselves, they have no other way to unleash all that except through violence, right? So that doesn't seem very productive, does it? It's not. It's not very productive at all. In fact, it's destructive. And one of the things that we can glean, one of the influences we can absorb when it comes to redefining what masculinity means in an age of Me Too is the ability to handle our emotions, to be a little bit more emotionally open, honest, and vulnerable, to speak of them without guilt or shame, to express them in healthy ways, and learn to become unconstipated when it comes to emotions. That's one of the things that it's going to have to be, because until the day comes when we can step up as men and deal with our emotions in a healthy way and recognize the inherent value in the women in our, not just in our lives, but in our workplaces, and particularly those we may or we may not know, when we stand beside them when they've been catcalled and assaulted and harassed, and the world will end up being a much better place for both men and women. And like I said at the beginning, if you're terrified of how things are changing and thinking that these changes are going to result in you personally being targeted out as someone who engages in harassment and what have you, then you really, like I said, you really need to take a really long, deep look in the mirror and understand that it's you. It's not the women. It's you. You're the one that's being the creeper. You're the one that can't figure out how to talk to women, how to approach them, how to interact with them on a human level. You got some deep-seated issues, buddy. And I'll tell you what, I'm here for you. You can talk through them. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. Just kind of kick this conversation about what what masculinity in this new age of Me Too isn't, what it could look like, what it can look like, and what we should definitely cast aside as relics of a bygone era. So again, I'm Christian, host of the 21st Century Men podcast, founder of Second Life Coaching. If you like this video, hit subscribe. We got plenty more of these coming up. Share it with those guys who you think need to hear this message. If you're listening to this on the podcast, do me a favor and leave a review and a rating, because I really do appreciate that, and it helps us get this message out further and reach more people, so that we can take guys from from their stale and boring lives to stimulating, exciting, and they can be, who they're supposed to be and who they can be better men tomorrow than they were yesterday. So, peace out. Talk to you later. Bye.